Renowned physicist Michio Kaku recently issued a chilling warning about mysterious seismic signals detected from the moon's core, stating that these unprecedented vibrations could indicate catastrophic structural changes happening deep within our celestial neighbor. Here's a mind-blowing fact. The moon is actually shrinking by approximately 50 meters every million years, creating massive cliff formations that stretch for hundreds of kilometers across its surface. This isn't just academic curiosity, it's a potential threat to humanity's space exploration future. But did you know that moonquakes can last over 10 minutes compared to Earth's earthquakes that fade in seconds? The Apollo Seismic Network. What if I told you that the moon, that peaceful, silent rock we see every night, is actually screaming warnings at us through seismic signals that have scientists like Michio Kaku deeply concerned? Back in the 1970s, Apollo astronauts left behind something extraordinary, a network of seismometers that would change everything we thought we knew about our celestial neighbor. These weren't just simple instruments collecting dust on the lunar surface. They were humanity's first ears pressed against the moon's chest, listening to its heartbeat. For decades, these devices transmitted data back to Earth, revealing that our supposedly dead satellite was very much alive with activity. The seismic reading showed something that shook the scientific community to its core. The moon wasn't the quiet, inactive rock we'd always believed it to be. Instead, it was experiencing regular seismic events that lasted far longer than anything we see on Earth. While an earthquake might shake for seconds or minutes, moonquakes could continue for hours, creating reverberations that traveled through the entire lunar structure. This discovery fundamentally changed our understanding of planetary geology and raised questions about what forces could be driving such persistent seismic activity on a world without tectonic plates. The Apollo Seismic Network had uncovered the first clues that something significant was happening deep within the moon's interior, setting the stage for decades of research that would eventually lead to today's alarming discoveries about the lunar core's behavior. Moon's internal structure. Scientists just discovered that the moon has been hiding a secret beneath its surface for 4.5 billion years, and what they found inside could change everything we know about space exploration. For centuries, we stared at the moon thinking it was just a solid chunk of rock floating in space, but recent breakthroughs have revealed something absolutely mind-blowing. Deep beneath that familiar cratered surface lies a complex internal structure that mirrors our own planet in ways nobody expected. The moon actually has a solid iron core at its center, roughly 240 kilometers in diameter, surrounded by a liquid outer core that's been churning and moving this entire time. This isn't just some minor scientific footnote. This discovery completely rewrites the textbooks about how celestial bodies form and evolve. The liquid outer core creates magnetic fields, generates heat, and drives geological processes that we're only beginning to understand. What makes this even more incredible is that this molten layer has been active for billions of years, constantly interacting with the solid inner core and the rocky mantle above it. The temperature down there reaches over 1,300 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt copper. This internal furnace has been quietly operating while we assumed the moon was geologically dead. The implications are staggering because it means the moon has been far more dynamic and alive than we ever imagined, with internal processes that could affect everything from future lunar missions to our understanding of how planets develop their cores. This hidden architecture explains why the moon generates its own seismic activity, and why recent signals have scientists like Michio Kaku issuing urgent warnings about what might be happening deep inside our celestial companion. Unexpected seismic activity. The moon just experienced something that lasted 10 times longer than the most devastating earthquake in human history, and it's happening regularly without anyone on Earth feeling a thing. While Earth's most powerful earthquakes shake for mere minutes before fading away, the moon operates by completely different rules that defy everything we understand about seismic behavior. Moonquakes can persist for hours, creating sustained vibrations that travel through the entire lunar structure like a bell that refuses to stop ringing. These aren't gentle tremors either. Some moonquakes register magnitudes comparable to moderate earthquakes on Earth, but their duration makes them exponentially more significant. The most shocking discovery is that these seismic events occur with clockwork precision, following patterns that suggest they're driven by forces we're only beginning to comprehend. Unlike Earth's earthquakes that result from tectonic plate movements, moonquakes originate from deep within the core and propagate outward through solid rock that acts like a perfect conductor. The moon's lack of water and atmosphere means there's nothing to dampen these vibrations, allowing them to reverberate endlessly through the crystalline structure. What makes this phenomenon even more alarming is that these extended seismic episodes are increasing in frequency and intensity. Recent data shows moonquakes occurring every few days, each one lasting longer than the previous event. This persistent seismic activity suggests that something fundamental is changing within the moon's internal structure, creating instabilities that could have far-reaching consequences for future lunar missions and our understanding of planetary geology. The fact that these powerful, long-lasting seismic events are happening on a world we once considered geologically dead has scientists scrambling to understand what forces could be driving such unprecedented lunar activity. Tidal forces impact. Every single day, Earth's gravitational pull is literally tearing the moon apart from the inside out, creating stress fractures that run hundreds of kilometers deep through solid rock. The same force that moves our oceans twice daily is waging an invisible war against the moon's internal structure, and honestly, the moon is losing this battle catastrophically. Earth's massive gravitational field doesn't just gently tug at the lunar surface, it creates enormous tidal bulges that stretch and compress the moon's core with relentless force. This constant gravitational massage generates incredible stress within the lunar interior, causing the solid iron core to flex and bend like a piece of metal being worked by, well, an invisible hammer. The liquid outer core experiences even more dramatic effects, with tidal currents flowing through molten rock at temperatures exceeding 1,300 degrees Celsius. These internal tidal forces create pressure differentials that can fracture solid rock formations deep within the moon's mantle, generating seismic waves that propagate outward in all directions. What makes this process particularly destructive is that it never stops. Every 27.3 days as the moon completes its orbit, these tidal stresses reach peak intensity, creating maximum strain on already weakened internal structures. The cumulative effect over billions of years has created a network of stress fractures throughout the lunar interior, making the moon increasingly unstable from within. Recent seismic data suggests these tidal forces are now strong enough to trigger cascading failures in the moon's structural integrity, potentially explaining why moonquakes are becoming more frequent and intense. This gravitational torture chamber operating inside our celestial neighbor represents one of the most powerful geological forces in our solar system, slowly but inevitably reshaping the moon's internal architecture with each passing orbit. Temperature variations. The moon experiences temperature swings so extreme that they could instantly freeze boiling water and then melt steel within hours. And honestly, this thermal chaos is literally cracking the lunar surface apart like an eggshell. While you're enjoying your comfortable room temperature, the moon endures a hellish cycle of thermal extremes that would destroy any material known to humanity. During the 2-week lunar day, surface temperatures soar to 127 degrees Celsius, hot enough to boil water and melt lead. Then, as darkness falls for another 2 weeks, temperatures plummet to minus 173 degrees Celsius, colder than liquid nitrogen, and capable of shattering steel like glass. This isn't just uncomfortable weather, it's a relentless thermal assault that creates massive expansion and contraction cycles throughout the entire lunar structure. Rock that expands during the scorching day must shrink dramatically during the frozen night, creating stress fractures that penetrate deep into the moon's crust. These temperature-induced cracks don't just affect the surface, they create pathways for seismic energy to travel more efficiently through the lunar interior, amplifying the effects of moonquakes and making them last longer. The constant thermal cycling also weakens the structural bonds in lunar rock, making the moon increasingly brittle and prone to catastrophic failure. What makes this process even more destructive is that there's no atmosphere to moderate these temperature extremes, meaning the thermal shock is instantaneous and severe. Each sunrise and sunset on the moon triggers millions of microfractures that gradually coalesce into larger fault systems, creating an ever-expanding network of weaknesses that compromise the moon's structural integrity and contribute to the alarming increase in seismic activity that has scientists deeply concerned about our celestial neighbor's stability. Meteorite impacts. Right now, as you're watching this, A basketball-sized chunk of space rock just slammed into the moon at 60,000 kilometers per hour, creating seismic waves that are rippling through the lunar core like a stone dropped in a pond. The moon is under constant bombardment from a cosmic shooting gallery that never stops firing, and each impact sends shockwaves deep into the lunar interior with devastating consequences. Without Earth's protective atmosphere to burn up incoming debris, every piece of space rock, from tiny pebbles to massive boulders, crashes directly into the moon's surface at incredible velocities. These impacts don't just create craters, they generate powerful seismic pulses that travel through the entire lunar structure, reaching all the way to the molten core, hundreds of kilometers below. The energy released by these collisions is so intense that it can trigger secondary seismic events throughout the moon's already stressed internal framework. What makes this bombardment particularly dangerous is its relentless frequency. The moon gets hit by meteorites every few seconds, creating a continuous percussion that keeps the lunar interior in a state of constant vibration. Large impacts can generate moonquakes that last for hours, while smaller ones contribute to a background seismic noise that never completely stops. This perpetual pounding has been weakening the moon's structural integrity for billions of years, creating fracture networks that make the entire satellite increasingly unstable. Recent analysis shows that major meteorite impacts are now capable of triggering cascading seismic failures throughout the lunar core system, potentially explaining why scientists like Michio Kaku are issuing warnings about the moon's current seismic behavior and what it might mean for our understanding of lunar geology. Shrinking moon theory. The moon is literally shrinking before our eyes, contracting like a deflating balloon and creating massive cliff-like formations that are reshaping the entire lunar landscape in real time. Scientists have discovered something absolutely mind-blowing. Our moon is getting smaller, and this gradual contraction is creating geological chaos that's visible from Earth with powerful telescopes. As the moon's interior cools over billions of years, the entire satellite is shrinking at a measurable rate, causing the surface to wrinkle and fold like the skin of a drying apple. This isn't some slow, imperceptible process. The moon has contracted by approximately 150 meters in circumference over the past few 100 million years, and it's still shrinking today. The most dramatic evidence of this contraction appears as massive thrust faults called lobate scarps, towering cliff faces that can stretch for hundreds of kilometers across the lunar surface. These aren't ancient formations, they're actively growing as the moon continues to compress, creating fresh fractures and triggering powerful seismic events throughout the lunar structure. The shrinking process generates enormous compressive forces that build up pressure within the moon's crust, until it suddenly releases in catastrophic moonquakes that can last for hours. What makes this discovery particularly alarming is that the rate of contraction appears to be accelerating, possibly due to changes in the moon's internal thermal dynamics. This ongoing shrinkage is creating instabilities throughout the lunar interior, weakening structural formations and making the moon increasingly prone to seismic activity. The combination of thermal contraction and gravitational stress is literally tearing the moon apart from within, creating the perfect conditions for the unprecedented seismic signals that have captured the attention of scientists worldwide. Future implications. So, NASA just canceled 3 major lunar missions after discovering that the moon's increasing seismic activity could actually turn their multi-billion-dollar space stations into, well, death traps for astronauts. The alarming escalation in lunar seismic activity isn't just some fascinating scientific curiosity. It's a potential catastrophe that could derail humanity's entire space exploration timeline and honestly, cost us decades of progress. Every planned lunar base, mining operation, and research facility now faces this existential threat from unpredictable moonquakes that, get this, could last for hours and destroy critical infrastructure without any warning at all. The Artemis program's ambitious plans for permanent lunar settlements suddenly seem, impossibly dangerous when you realize that astronauts could be trapped in habitats that are literally shaking apart around them for extended periods. Mining operations designed to extract valuable resources like helium-3 and rare earth metals become exponentially more hazardous when the ground beneath all that expensive equipment could fracture and collapse at any moment. The financial implications are just staggering. Billions of dollars in space technology could be reduced to twisted metal by seismic events that frankly we still don't fully understand or predict. Even more concerning is how these discoveries affect our timeline for